Hello, Barcelona family. Like and subscribe to the channel to know everything about Barcelona. In this video, we have a huge revelation about Barcelona, but before that, we need to talk about other very important topics concerning our beloved club. Let's move on to the first one. After officializing the arrival of young goalkeeper Joan Garcia, Barcelona continues to plan with determination every move of their summer, with Joan Laporta at the helm and Deco leading the sports department. The club is not only focusing on high-profile signings or emerging talents, but is also looking to strengthen key positions that might be insufficient in case of setbacks during the season. And one of them is undoubtedly the left-back position. In this regard, a name has started to gain importance in Barcelona's offices. Alejandro Grimaldo, the Bayer Leverkusen left-back, who came from La Masia and is now shining in the European elite, is being watched with great interest by Deco as well as by Hansi Flick. What was a few weeks ago just a diffuse interest is now turning into an increasingly real option. Alejandro Bald has shown he has what it takes to be an undisputed starter. His progress in recent years has been meteoric, earning recognition even in the Spanish national team. However, his youth and recent history of injuries have raised some concerns within the technical staff. Gerard Martin, on the other hand, has stepped up every time he has been called upon, but in the most demanding matches, such as European games or classics, it has become clear that the team needs a more reliable option, someone with more international experience, a competitive temperament, and a deeper understanding of complex scenarios. This is where Grimaldo's profile fits in, a seasoned player in high-level competitions, offensive, precise, with tactical awareness and a privileged left foot. Joan Laporta, in constant dialogue with Hansi Flick, has started to seriously consider signing the left-back. The new German coach has given his approval for the possible return of the Valencian footballer, who knows perfectly the identity and style of the Catalan team. Flick believes that having two profiles as different as Bald's and Grimaldo's would give versatility to the system. One with more speed, verticality, and power, the other with more composure, positional intelligence, and clarity in the final pass. Both can coexist in a team that aspires to regain its hegemony both in Spain and in Europe. The season that Grimaldo has just completed with Bayer Leverkusen is an impressive calling card. No less than 48 matches, 4 goals, and 13 assists in a team that broke all the molds in the Bundesliga, proclaiming themselves champions undefeated and defying the hegemony of Bayern Munich. Under the orders of Xavi Alonso, the left-back reached his highest level of performance, also consolidating his place in the Spanish national team. His ability to join the attack, his measured crosses, his striking ability, and his tactical maturity make him an extremely sought-after profile. At his age, he is living the perfect moment to take on the challenge of returning home and finally triumphing with the blue and garnet jersey. One of the aspects that most seduces the sports management is the cost of the operation. Despite his contract with Leverkusen until 2027, his release clause is around 15 to 18 million euros, a quite affordable sum for the current Barcelona, especially if compared to other signings in the market for similar positions. In terms of performance, experience, knowledge of the club, and cost, Grimaldo represents a golden opportunity. Furthermore, the left-back has already made it clear in different interviews that he feels a special bond with the club that trained him. He has never hidden that his departure was painful, that his goal had always been to triumph in the first team, and that if the opportunity to return arose, he would do so with enthusiasm and a competitive spirit. This type of profile, that of the footballer with Barcelona's DNA who arrives at full footballing maturity, is the one that Laporta wants to recover to give the team back its essence without giving up immediate performance. As if that were not enough, Real Madrid has also shown interest in his services. The White Club, aware of the imbalance that a reliable offensive left-back can generate, has approached his entourage in recent weeks. However, within Barcelona, there is a sense of calm. The conviction is clear: if it comes to choosing between returning home or wearing white, Grimaldo will choose the badge that saw him grow. Deco has already moved quickly to avoid any surprises, establishing the first formal contacts with his agent and informing Hansi Flick of the progress. The coach, who greatly appreciates the left-back's tactical adaptability, has given the green light to the operation. This possible return would not only strengthen the team on a sporting level, but would also be a nod to the youth academy and the club's values. Recovering a La Masia player who triumphs in Europe is a powerful message. Homegrown talent can return stronger, wiser, and more competitive. The Barcelona supporters, who have always identified with these players who grew up in the club, would also see this signing favorably. Grimaldo is not just an effective player, he is a story of return, an opportunity to close a cycle that should never have remained unfinished. And what do the supporters think? On social media and in sports debates, a growing murmur is already being perceived. Many members and supporters remember the left-back with affection and enthusiasm and would welcome his return to Camp Nou. Grimaldo is ready, some say, now he could triumph here, others assure. The truth is that few times an option so aligned with the identity and needs of the club presents itself. Hansi Flick, on the other hand, continues to analyze all possible variants for the new season with the support of Laporta and the tireless work of Deco. The German coach is looking for a versatile and balanced team, capable of competing on all fronts without depending solely on a backbone. In this scenario, the signing of Grimaldo would add depth to an area of the field where physical wear and tear and tactical pressure are enormous. The operation could be concluded in a few weeks if everything goes as planned. The player is open to listening to the proposal, and the club has already started working on it. So, the question remains, what does Barcelona think of this possible signing? Would they like to see Grimaldo again in blue and garnet, this time with stripes and responsibilities? Is he the profile the team needs to complete its defense? The ball is, as always, in the club's court and also in the hearts of the supporters. But one thing is clear, when Joan Laporta contemplates with serenity and Hansi Flick approves with discernment, decisions usually do not go wrong. Grimaldo's return can be one of those bets that, without making much noise, end up being fundamental to dreaming big again. The second piece of news concerns an important decision in our beloved club. The name Christantus Uche is starting to resonate strongly within the Barcelona environment. While this is not a priority operation, it has gained traction in recent days after his representatives offered him to the Blaugrana club as an attractive market opportunity to strengthen the midfield. The sports management, led by Deco, has already analyzed the young Nigerian's profile and passed it on to President Joan Laporta, who is studying it with interest, albeit with some reservations. This is an opportunity different from the usual, a physically explosive profile, capable of providing muscle and deployment in an area of the field where, historically, Barcelona has focused on technical control. And precisely for this reason, the evaluation must be done with great caution. Christantus Uche, born in 2002, has had a brilliant season at Getafe under the orders of José Bordalas. He has reached an unexpected level of maturity, becoming one of the revelation midfielders of the league. His evolution has been so remarkable that it has not only aroused the interest of several Premier League clubs but has now entered the orbit of a club like Barcelona, whose demands and footballing model require in-depth analysis before any incorporation. At just 22 years old, Uche has participated in 38 official matches, scored 4 goals, and provided 7 assists, figures that reflect not only his work capacity but also an unusual offensive vision in such physical profiles. Deco has received very positive reports from his scouting network and has shown openness to evaluating his recruitment. However, the weight of the decision also rests on the evaluation of Hansi Flick, the coach who is beginning to shape the team for the new season. The German, a lover of order, high pressing, and midfield balance, has not ruled out the Uche option, although he has shown caution in considering that the player still needs to polish his understanding of the tactical concepts required by the Blaugrana playing model. In other words, the talent and power are there, but it remains to be seen if the Barcelona environment, with its media pressure, playing philosophy, and enormous internal competition, is the right place for Uche to definitively explode. The player's contractual situation also adds an interesting element to the equation. Getafe signed him for just €500,000 from Ceuta, but now values him at close to 20 million, with his release clause set at 25 million, and part of the transfer would go to the Andalusian club, further complicating the negotiations. In any case, Barcelona has not yet opened an official dialogue with the Madrid club, although its interest is real and it remains alert to the evolution of market movements. From the player's entourage, it is assured that Uche himself views a possible arrival at Barcelona favorably, although he is also aware that he would have to fight for every minute with heavyweight names like GAVI, PEDRI, De Jong, or Christantus, not to mention Fermin Lopez, who is increasingly demanding protagonism. English clubs have been much more proactive. Wolverhampton, Brentford, and Leeds have initiated formal contacts with Getafe to explore his possible incorporation this summer. English football, more physical and direct, seems tailor-made for a player like Uche, and both Leeds and Brentford see him as a bet for the present and the future. However, his representatives have wanted to prioritize the Barcelona option, aware that, although it is not the easiest or most immediate path, it represents a huge leap in prestige and an opportunity to develop in an environment that can propel him to the elite. But the big question that Barcelona supporters are asking is it worth recruiting Uche? The debate is open. On the one hand, He is a player different from the usual Blaugrana midfield prototype. Physical, fast, tireless, capable of covering great distances with power and providing a presence in both boxes. He is not a technical player in the traditional sense, but an element that could complement the more technical profiles and give the team variance when matches get tough. On the other hand, there is the risk of bringing in a footballer who, while shining at Getafe, has not yet been tested in a high-demand context like that of Camp Nou. Hansi Flick has not closed the door. In fact, the German coach has asked for time to continue evaluating videos, reports, and physical data of the player before making a final judgment. The coach has already demonstrated during his time in Germany that he knows how to make the most of physical midfielders without giving up the team's identity. The case of Joshua Kimmich, who started as a converted fullback and ended up dominating Bayern's midfield, is an example that has not gone unnoticed by Flick. However, he is also aware that Uche's leap to Barcelona would require an adaptation process that is not always simple. In parallel, Joan Laporta is listening carefully to the arguments of his technical team. He knows that recruiting Uche would be a bet that would generate divided opinions among the supporters. He is not a media signing, not a name that makes headlines, but he could become a useful piece in the puzzle. Laporta, who has always trusted in the ability of La Masia to provide talents to the first team, is also aware that he needs to incorporate reinforcements that offer different variants and solutions from the traditional ones. Is this player the answer? It is not yet clear. From the club, they do not rule out the possibility of making an offer if they first manage to finalize some departures. It is not about accumulating players for the sake of it, but about choosing profiles that really bring something different. What do the supporters think of this possible recruitment? Is Christantus the type of player Barcelona needs? Should they bet on a physical profile that breaks with the technical tradition of the midfield, or on the contrary, do they risk losing the essence of the Blaugrana game if they give access to footballers of another profile? Social networks are already buzzing with divergent opinions, ranging from those who see him as a piece with a lot of potential to those who think it is an unnecessary move that would only hinder the development of young talents from La Masia. Meanwhile, Christantus continues to train normally at Getafe, unaware of the stir that is beginning to generate around his name. He knows that the summer will be long, that there will be offers, calls, and negotiations, but in his mind, there is only one idea. If Barcelona wants him, he is ready to give his all, not only to grow as a footballer but also to wear a jersey that he saw from his childhood as a distant dream. Now, that dream is closer than ever, it only remains for the club to take the step. Will they do it? And you, Kuhl, what do you think? Should Barcelona bet on Christantus or look towards other profiles closer to its DNA? The debate is on. The third piece of news concerns a major recruitment at Barcelona. The club is buzzing with activity in its offices. The summer promises to be long and full of significant decisions, and one of them might be on the verge of materializing: the recruitment of Alexander Sorloth, the Norwegian striker who had a great season at Atletico de Madrid. He has been offered to the Blaugrana club in a context where all the pieces seem to fit together. From the sports management, the first formal contacts have already been made with the players' agents, who have not only shown a full willingness to wear the blue and garnet but are also moving towards an agreement that could be concluded in the coming weeks if everything continues as planned. Hansi Flick, the new first-team coach, has been categorical in his assessment. The team needs a striker capable of making a difference in the final third of the field, but also someone who can understand the collective play he wants to implement. Sorloth is not a name that comes as a surprise nor an improvised option. The technical staff has analyzed him in detail and given the green light for his incorporation, convinced that the Norwegian can bring a new dimension to the team's attack. The timing is not chosen at random. Barcelona is undergoing a structural transition both on a sporting and institutional level, and in this process, the squad is undergoing a process of purification and renewal that affects all lines of the field. In the offensive sector, the possible departure of Robert Lewandowski, although not confirmed, is practically accepted in the offices, which forces important decisions to be made. It is not just about replacing a historic scorer but redefining the role of the number 9 in a team that aspires to regain its footballing identity and, at the same time, compete with guarantees in Europe. In this context, Alexander Sorloth emerges as an ideal profile. At 28 years old, he is at the peak of his career. Physically, he is an imposing striker, with a powerful stride, a great ability to play with his back to goal, remarkable aerial presence, and an increasingly refined goal-scoring sense. But he is not just a finisher. He also stands out for his reading of the game, his mobility without the ball, and his defensive commitment. It is no surprise that Simeone tried to retain him at all costs. The Argentine coach highly values strikers who work in both phases of the game, and Sorloth has been one of the most used names by Atletico during a season full of ups and downs. However, the player has made his decision. He wants a change of scenery, not due to a lack of minutes or dissatisfaction, but because he feels that the time has come to take a step further. The appeal of Barcelona, even in a period of transition, remains undeniable. For a player like him, who has played in clubs in Norway, the Netherlands, Turkey, Germany, and Spain, wearing the blue and garnet jersey represents both a culmination and a new beginning. He knows it, his agents know it, and the club knows it too. Joan Laporta and Deco have taken note. The president and the sports director, aware that this summer will be decisive in terms of planning, are working discreetly but firmly to conclude strategic operations. Sorloth would not be a Galactico recruitment in terms of media attention, but he would be in terms of functionality, and that is precisely what the team needs: fewer spotlights and more real solutions. Flick has been clear. He wants accomplished players, with experience, a physical and mental profile to withstand pressure, and the humility necessary to adapt to a new project. The figures, for now, are being approached with caution. Atletico will not make the task easy, but they know they cannot retain a footballer who has already expressed his desire for a change of scenery. Additionally, the red and white club does not own 100% of his rights, which means a good offer could convince all parties. Barcelona, with its delicate economic situation, cannot afford excessive spending, but it can afford intelligent recruitments. Sorloth falls into this category. A striker who can arrive for a reasonable price and with acceptable contractual conditions, without compromising the project's viability in the medium term. It is also not negligible that the player views the operation favorably. Although his name has been mentioned in other leagues, notably the Premier League, the Norwegian is very clear in his mind that his desire is to continue in Spain. He feels comfortable in the league, has shown he can compete at the highest level, and appreciates the possibility of integrating into a team with aspirations and an offensive playing proposition. In private conversations, he has hinted at his admiration for Barcelona's style of play and what the club represents in the history of European football. The statistics are in his favor. Last season, he exceeded 15 goals in official competitions, many of them decisive, and added assists, recoveries, and kilometers covered that make him a complete striker. But beyond the numbers, what really stands out is his ability to appear in key moments, his involvement in collective play, and his winning mentality. Flick is looking precisely for this: players capable of rowing in the same direction, accepting roles, and competing for the good of the group. Of course, the Barcelona supporters also have their say. What do the Kules think of this possible recruitment? Do they see in Sorloth an ideal replacement for the departing striker? Do they think he can lead the team's attack in a new cycle of reconstruction? Opinions are diverse, as always happens in a club with so much history and demand. Some appreciate his physical profile and his effectiveness in front of goal, while others wonder if he is enough to assume the responsibility of carrying the offensive weight in an institution of this magnitude. And it is natural that there are doubts. Sorloth is not a marketing name. He does not sell jerseys like the big media figures, but perhaps that is precisely what is needed right now: a footballer who comes to work, to add, to compete without external demands or the need for excessive protagonism. The Norwegian does not come to promise the impossible, but to offer guarantees in an increasingly demanding football world. Having a center-forward of his profile can make the difference between aspiring and truly competing. The summer has just begun, but in the offices of the Blaugrana club, the atmosphere of big decisions is already being felt. Alexander Sorloth is in the orbit, and the sensations are positive. If everything continues on its path, we could be facing one of the first strategic moves of a new era, an era where talent and sports intelligence must go hand in hand. Will the Norwegian be the first step in this direction? Is he the striker the team needs to return to the top?